So, hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm here with David Lee with Cultural Cuba, and he will tell us today how to party in Cuba for a birthday celebration that no one will forget. And with that, David, please tell us all about it.
Okay, thanks, Andres. Hi, everyone. Happy you're taking some time this afternoon or this morning or this evening, wherever you may be joining us. It's nice for me to get this chance to talk to all of you. Yeah, I like the way you started out the intro, how to party in Cuba. That's very easy. Cuba's a party place. For those of you who have been, you know what I'm talking about. So you're right. I'm more specifically I'm gonna talk a little bit in general as well about what we do, of course, especially for those of you who are not as familiar with us. But then I have a focus on milestone birthdays, destination weddings, that sort of thing. That's one of the key topics of this of today's webinar. I'm going to share my screen with you all right now. Okay. I'm going to start you off with a short little sizzle reel. So if you have you should have your volume turned on. Whoop. Was going to start you out with a short sizzle reel. Okay. We have our own in-house videography and photography team, and I taught them the word sizzle reel in the last year. They're very creative, very talented, and they love the concept of it, and so you know, so much so that I think every month I get a new one of these, and I keep trying to tell them that, you know, slowly but surely they're figuring it out. I'm like, when I say sizzle, I need it really short. We have you know, short attention spans around here, but also for these kinds of presentations, of course, I don't want people to be having to sit through a long video. But anyway, so quick thing on us. We are a true DMC, or Virtuoso uses the word on-site, which actually I really like the word on-site. Especially in our case, it's much more descriptive of what we are. We are on the ground in Havana, boots on the ground, so to speak. We do not outsource even to the Cuban government. It's our staff, our guides, drivers, vehicles, concierge staff, itinerary planners. Again, like I mentioned, even our own in-house videography, photography team. I will tell you, we are quite rare in Cuba, specifically in the Cuba business, being a company that doesn't outsource to the Cuban government. Those of you probably are aware, you know, the government themselves, they like to have control just about over everything. Took me about 5 years building the right kind of trust and explaining to them about what we do and why it's necessary for us to you know, have our own team. And that's, you know, to get us to this point. So the key benefits, of course, probably obvious, but, you know, the main one is quality. We're not trying to be a company for everyone. We are high end. The type of services that we provide are, especially when it comes to our guides, everything starts with the guides. It's critical to the quality, to the communication, and everything else. And that's why, you know, we keep everything controlled and everything in-house. So again, for those of you who have been, you already know why this is such a special place. If you haven't, first of all, I'll tell you very briefly, if I can, my backstory. I don't originally come from the travel industry. I had a business in Central and Eastern Europe, a telecom business that I created. I was fortunate. I sold it to a multinational. I'd moved back to the US and was trying to kind of figure out what was next for me, my act two. And I was certainly hoping to get involved in something that was more about passion over profits, so to speak. And I was invited on a humanitarian trip to Cuba 11 years ago, and that is what changed the course of, you know, this second career. I guess the best way for me to sum it up, and in my case, you know, I flew on an American Airlines plane, nonstop, direct from Miami, and it's like literally, you know, you fly 45 minutes, you're transported 60 years back in time to what I call the land of highly educated, extremely warm, magically, artistically talented people. It's, you know, the best way for me to sum it up in one sentence. First, the city. The city itself grabs you. It's a 500-year-old European city. This is nothing like anything you would experience anywhere in the Caribbean. But then you start meeting the people, and it's part and parcel of their culture. It's also an interesting silver lining because of the situation that the Cuban people have lived in since the revolution. You know, in a sense, art is free, but their focus on music, on dance, on the fine arts is why it is so prevalent in their culture. And I'll say, per capita, it's unlike anywhere else in the world as far as having world-class dancers, musicians, and artists. So you can't help it. It doesn't have to be a huge part of your journey and your itinerary necessarily, but it's going to be everywhere around you, especially the music. And because Cuba has so much to offer, it is an ideal destination for a wide demographic audience. That's why I think our multi-gen and family trips are growing so rapidly as well, because everybody leaves happy. There's something for all ages, something that grabs almost everyone from all walks of life and all interests. But our focus today is on the milestone birthday trips, and let's add in destination weddings, because I really think these kinds of things go together. And here's, in general, our concept, the company's concept, Cultural Cuba itself. For every single trip we do, it's really an event. Our trips are events. We are really event planners, multi-day, complicated event planners. And that's true, honestly, if it's one person, two people, all the way through. So I think this is another reason that, you know, because of what we do and what we provide, it also lends itself nicely to this idea of big birthday trips or destination weddings. And again, this starting probably, I think first time we did a big wedding was back in 2015. And then a couple of birthday trips after that, and then year in, year out, you know, just double-digit growth in those kinds of bookings. So three key reasons I would say for that. One, there's so much to see and do, like I said. You're inviting a group of people to join you in your celebration, and those people individually have different interests and different desires. And like I said, there's so much going on and so much we can pack in to a trip that everyone leaves happy, not just happy, but with memories to last a lifetime. The other thing I talked about is that it really is an event, and we are event planners. That's our trips are multi-day events from morning till night. And then it's the fact that the things that we can do the things we can provide for these types of celebrations would be, first of all, over the top expensive, or even probably not even feasible in most countries, most cities around the world, the US or other major, major locations. Whereas in our case, it makes it so economically viable that for our wealthy clients who want to create these experiences and literally provide, for all the participants they invite, the trip is free, or whether they partially subsidize it, it's possible without, completely breaking the bank. So, everything from having literally a private musical performance from a Grammy award-winning Cuban musician. We rent out the top restaurants in town, the special events that we do every single day. We have photographers and videographers following the group every single day throughout the trip, and then present, the attendees an incredibly, edited and, specially made video and photos from the event. Exclusive rum tasting, cigar tours, beach trips. I can go on and on about the things that we include and pack in these, depending on the desire of the clients during these festivities. Just to give you a further example, this actually is just the first night I'm sharing with you. Literally just the first night itinerary for a 3.5-day trip from one of our clients. This happened to have been a 50th birthday. So literally starts, first of all, with arrival. And the way our journeys always start, it doesn't matter when they're going to check into their hotel. The journey, the experience starts from the moment upon arrival. So let's just say this is a group. In this case, I think it was 24 guests. They landed 4 p.m. We have VIP arrival services. Their guide and their driver waiting for them, obviously right at the airport to whisk them away, and start the adventure. In this case, because they arrived at 4 p.m., we did head from there, to the hotel. But on the way, there were a couple of important stops that were, partially a surprise. So we stopped at one of the top, cultural destinations in Cuba. And at this point, because it's 24 people, they're in a, private, very nice air-conditioned bus. But we got to this spot, we unloaded them from the bus. This happened to be an area that is historically famous, place where Fidel Castro delivered a lot of speeches. And waiting for them was a fleet of 1950s, convertible vehicles, and they transferred immediately and broke up into smaller groups and continued on doing a little bit of a quick Havana tour before we actually went to the hotel. They get to the hotel, the check-in's already all set up. There's nothing, this isn't one of these things where anybody has to go to a front desk, that sort of thing. Everything is already arranged. Their rooms are all set for them. Literally the first thing they do, head right up to rooftop pool deck. We have an intro party with mojitos set up for them, a completely private area roped off. And this happened to have been the Kempinski Manzana Hotel, which is the nicest hotel in all of Havana. We've got the pool deck completely roped off just for this group. They have their mojitos, and one of the top dance companies in Cuba kicks off this amazingly private party for them, performing right there on the roof. After that, a little bit of time for them to, freshen up in their rooms, and then we whisk them off for a special private dinner, again at a special restaurant in an old converted home that is completely privatized just for this group. After dinner, they enjoy a private rum tasting with the head sommelier of Havana Club Rum himself, who comes into a private back patio at this particular restaurant and we do this exclusive rum tasting of 25-year-old aged rum, and an explanation of the history of rum, that sort of thing. But mostly it's about rum, cigars, that sort of thing. Again, done at this restaurant. And then the night's not over. While they're having dinner, fleet of 1950s convertibles pulls up again. They finish dinner and get into these cars, and off they go to the next stop, which is going to be more of a late night evening location. I think in this case, for this night, they went to El Floridita, conveniently located across from their hotel. So stumbling distance, so to speak, back to the hotel in the evening. But just to be clear, this is just arrival day. This isn't even the main birthday celebration. That happened the next evening. So I'm just trying to give you a small taste of what we do. Now, everyone in this group was absolutely amazed, blown away. It was an incredible welcome. The next thing you know, though, they're 11 a.m. the next morning. They start with some special tours. And then there's a whole nother day of activities and another very, very special evening planned for them the next night. Same thing on day 3. Everything we do, though, is customized. So for me to give you, I don't want to go into like the full 3-night itinerary for this particular group, because the whole point is that no 2 celebrations that we do, events that we plan, wedding or birthdays, or any type of reason that somebody wants to do a special celebration, is alike. We start out by talking about all the cool things you can see and do and experience while you're in Cuba, and then we build this trip based on what your clients want. So another key thing, and this is beyond, of course, just whether it's a destination, wedding, or whether it's a milestone birthday. Every one of our trips, all of them, include a full-time private guide. And by the way, our guides are, the guide is the most important part of these experiences, of course. So everything starts with the guide. Our guides are obviously highly educated and speak fluent English. That's a minimum. That's the baseline. But the key for our guides, and this is something we can't teach, so it's the people we look for when we're hiring them. Our concept is it's travel with a local friend who is obviously, like I said, intelligent and speaks fluent English, but that's just the beginning. So it's a local friend who is incredibly fun, engaging, warm, and genuinely wants to bring you into their world, show you their culture, but in a very connected way. So our guides, their friends, the people they personally hang out with, are the elite of the Cuban society when it comes to the arts, music, like I said, music, dance, fine arts, even within, moving beyond that within like the diplomatic corps, professors of history, architecture. So, this kind of thing becomes part of the journey. And when they say bring you into their world, that's the world they're bringing you into. So it starts with the guide. Every one of our clients also receives a full-time private driver and vehicle. And like I said, we have our own fleet of 1950s cars, and Mercedes Sprinter type vehicles as well for larger groups. But no matter what, every client spends time in the cars. It's a key part of travel to Cuba. So, everyone enjoys it, and we make sure it's a significant part of their trip. And of course, everything that is in their itinerary from start to finish, and again, these are always custom, always private itineraries. So that is also included with all of our trips. Move on here. A key thing, and I know that especially coming out of COVID, there has been this, renewed kind of interest in what we call impactful travel, sustainable travel, travel with purpose. This, I really hope that this resurgence of interest in this kind of travel is here to stay and not temporary. But at the end of the day, this is what we do. This is the mission statement of our company. Support for the Cuban people literally is our part and parcel of the purpose of our entire business. And it also happens to be, for those of you on the call who are US travel advisors, it also happens to be the legal license that our clients will travel to Cuba under. From the US perspective, what it means is that the vast majority of money that an American spends while they're traveling to Cuba should go to the people of Cuba and not the government. That's the gist of it. There's 5 pages of legalese on the US Treasury Department's website. It's OFAC, is the Department of Treasury that manages embargoed countries, that talk about this. But the gist is what I told you. It's really about where the money's going. We are 100% behind that, and I don't care what your politics is, blue, red, everything in between. I think most people can get behind that general concept. From our perspective, we've taken it to a whole nother level. Support for the Cuban people is everything. It's everything about what we do. First of all, we don't outsource to the Cuban government. So every single person involved with your client's travel to Cuba is part of the Cuban people and not the Cuban government. Then for us, almost all of the margins and the profits beyond what it costs us to put our trips together, we put back into a variety of community projects that we fully fund in Cuba. One of them is a preschool for disadvantaged youth in Old Havana. These are children who are aged 3 to 5. They come from difficult home environments. They're not orphans. They just come from difficult home environments. They need a safe place to be during the day. And so we have a preschool. We operate it like, imagine like a private Head Start preschool that you would see throughout in other parts of the world. This is what it is. We provide it free of charge for these children in Old Havana. We also have a dance company and a dance school, also free of charge for children age 6 to 16. When they graduate at 16, they can try out to be part of the professional company. There's also a senior center that we're involved in. We don't fully fund the senior center, we're just part of it. But we're going to continue to grow, these different activities that we support. But the point is, we always involve your clients in where this money is going and involve them as much as they want to. Nothing is ever mandatory with our trips. But if they want to see it, we invite them to. I don't think we've ever had anyone not want to do it. And I'll tell you right now, it makes a profound impact on them. Even, we've had, I had recently an NFL team come with coaches and a significant amount of the players, and their main focus for the trip, obviously, it was cigars, rum, nightlife, enjoying the old cars. That was the primary focus. But we took them to see the preschool. And I'll tell you, afterward, I've never seen so many, 350-pound linebackers, crying and telling me that, this was probably the most important thing they did during the whole trip. But this is the kind of thing that happens. It's part of the journey and the experience in Cuba. So another key point from us is we don't like the word guideline or restriction, whether they're US travelers or not. Forget about that. I know that many people have heard, if you're an American traveling to Cuba, there's license you have to go on, and there's restrictions, and there's mandatory cultural exchange. When you work with us, you can throw all of that garbage out the window. Nothing is mandatory. Nothing really is restricted. And I can get into more detail, not on this webinar, but with each of you individually to kind of explain what I'm talking about there. We create custom itineraries, and it is exactly what your clients want to do and experience when they're in Cuba, period. Because we are a support for the Cuban people company, the Treasury Department knows that. They know that we don't mess around when it comes to that. That's why they're traveling legally with us to Cuba. Let me just make sure I didn't skip a slide. Okay. Quick thing, because I get this question a lot: how long of a trip should you plan for clients? And since we're talking about, first and foremost, about this kind of thing about birthday groups, destination weddings, most of those will fall into a 3-night trip. just for obvious reasons, right? It's, you know, you're inviting an entire group of people, whether you're paying for it or you're partially paying for it, and, you know, all the guests have to pay. You want them to be able to come. You want to make it easy. It's more of a long weekend kind of destination, and it's perfect. There's so much that we can provide in a 3-night trip. And again, like I said, it doesn't matter about when the hotel's check-in or check-out is. Our trips are all about from the time of arrival to the time of departure. It's not based on hotel check-ins. So those kind of trips tend to be 3 nights. Sometimes we'll offer, it can be longer, of course, or sometimes we'll offer add-ons, as the case may be, and then we can make it a little bit longer. But just in, I'd say 75–80% of them fall in that. The next, more like most of the other trips, would fall in the 4 or 5 night range. These trips will be based in Havana, meaning even though we'll take the clients out into the countryside, they will not be moving hotels, not on a 4 or 5 night trip. They're staying in Havana, they're staying in one hotel. And by the way, just to be clear, for those who haven't been, Havana, first and foremost, is the place you need to see. It is the seat of culture. It has the best accommodations, the best food, the most nightlife, just in general, the most to see and do. So 4 or 5 nights, Havana-based trip, no one is bored. And like I said, we still take them out into the countryside. We can do day trips. We have a variety of day trips that we have on offer. Again, always included in our trips. For those that have more time and want to see more of the island, we start with 6 to 8 night trips. And in these kinds of situations, then of course, they'll spend the bulk of the trip in Havana, in the Havana accommodations, but they will move to additional accommodations in other cities. The last thing I want to touch on, and this is a big one, we are B2B. I think we're the only Cuba provider that is. I haven't run into any others. We are 100% focused on you, our travel advisor partners. We do not market directly to the end client or traveler. We don't fish in your pond, so to speak. You are our first and most important client, and then it is our job, obviously, to make you look like rock stars to your clients. We understand our mission very well. We think of this as a true partnership between us. And this is key for a lot of reasons. Obviously, you know, there's the obvious one, which is we do not go after your clients. And I'm sure at this point, many of you are fed up with the hotels and tour operators and cruises and everybody else who is, you know, they work with you, of course, but they're also, you know, targeting your clients directly. Let's face it, almost every one of the suppliers are doing that. The next thing is it's because we don't need any middlemen between your client's experience and what happens on the ground in Cuba. That just adds to the cost and lowers the quality, to be quite honest. There's no need for it. We are the boots on the ground in Cuba. You're bringing your clients to us for this experience, and that's it. No one else needs to be involved. It also certainly helps with pricing, and you know, end of the day, you know, it enables us to provide the kind of quality that we want to provide. We're not trying to be a company for everyone. You guys are bringing us the clients that we're looking for and that we need. And I'll just say this, you know, and I just, if you permit me to be on my soapbox a little bit, in general, and I know some of you already know this and feel this way, I'm just trying to tell you that if you have a DMC on the ground in whatever country it is that you're working that is truly B2B, and they're good, starts with good. Let's go great. It starts with great. They have to be great at what they do because that's the thing you're providing for your client. So let's start there. But if you have one that's great and they're B2B, I strongly encourage you to work with them. At the end of the day, and we're no different, you know, this is almost an experiment in a way. If we get to a point where we're just not able to grow and we're seeing a lot of travel advisors continuing to work with companies that aren't B2B and are still also marketing direct to end users, you know, the message might be, well, you know, what's going on here? And so that's my point. And again, I'll jump off the soapbox, but of course, the starting point is they have to be really good. It's not enough to be B2B. they've got to be an amazing company first and foremost. Okay. Oh, quick thing, because we're talking about this, the B2B situation, we have a travel advisor portal on our website. I really would like any of you who have not registered yet, when you get a chance, you can do it right now or do it when you get off of this call, go to our website, culturalcuba.com, click the link, fill in your name, your IATA. I think that's about all we ask for. We will send you your password. Most of the detailed information is hidden behind the travel advisor portal for obvious reasons. Clients can find us. They can do a Google search. The end traveler can find us. But we want most of that detail that helps you with selling Cuba to be behind that portal. Again, I'll take this one step further. Clients, if they do contact us directly, and some do, there's no question about it. And if they do not have a travel advisor, we maintain a list of our top preferred travel advisors who have booked at least $50,000 with us or at least 3 trips. And we keep a rotating list. And when those clients come to us and want to book Cuba, we will send them directly to you. You will have a built-in new client and a trip that we will pay commission on, even though you haven't brought us that client. If you can then end up, that client ends up being a client for other travel, great. We've also fulfilled our purpose there. But I just want you to know that's how serious we take this B2B situation. Okay, I'm going to come back on screen now. Hopefully we still have some time for some Q&A.
Yes, we have a couple of questions.
Great.
The first one would be, with the present restriction from US to Cuba, how easy can you confirm the car rentals?
Okay, so first of all, this is something very important. I don't know if this is what the question's related to, but I didn't touch on this yet, the current situation with COVID. And I want to touch on that. So Cuba, literally, from the standpoint of having tourists there, Cuba has been virtually shut down since the 3rd week of March 2020, and still technically is. It's open in the sense that the airport's open. It reopened in December. You can go there, but there was a quarantine in effect, which meant that it didn't matter if you were vaccinated or anything. You land, they give you a PCR test. You had to stay in your hotel room until the results of the PCR test come through, and that can take 24 to 72 hours. So essentially, we were not sending any clients there. The government announced that as of November 15th, they are lifting the quarantine. And from that point forward, the only regulation will be, you have to be vaccinated. You have to have proof of vaccination to enter the country. And this is for people over the age of 12, by the way. They understand that children can't be vaccinated in all countries yet. Cuba is interesting. They're actually vaccinating everyone over the age of 2 already. They're very progressive in this, but that's the situation there. If you have someone in your party who, for whatever reason, is not vaccinated, they will then have to be subjected to a PCR test. They can still come, but for the vast majority of people, the only requirement will be proof of vaccine starting November 15th. We, as a company, are being a lot more careful. We want to make sure that Cuba isn't just open without quarantine. We want to make sure it's truly alive. We're not selling a half Cuba experience. So we're taking bookings starting with festive this year and going forward. Okay, so I don't know if that was actually an answer to the question. Can you tell me, Andreas, what was that? What was the specific question?
It was about rental cars. If there is, if it's still
rental cars.
Rental cars, correct.
Well, we provide a driver and a vehicle full time for every client.
Okay.
Not a rental car.
Would people, if they insist on driving themselves, would that be possible?
I mean, I suppose anything in a sense is possible, because everything we do is custom. We've never had a client that requested they'd rather drive themselves around than have a driver. you know, I'm not sure why that case would be, but you know, we could entertain it if that was the situation. You know, remember, we're providing a guided experience here. So this isn't a book. This isn't a book a hotel and just run around on your own kind of experience in Cuba. And this is the case not just for our American clients; it's also for our international clients. You know, it's just not ready to be that type of destination yet.
Okay.
And to be quite honest, as travel advisors, I don't even know how you'd make commission if you have a client that just wants to book a hotel and run around on their own renting a car. It's there's nothing in it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but end of the day, that's not really what we do. But if it's a situation where these clients want to do that for a day out of a certain number of day journey, I suppose we could arrange for a rental car. But just to be clear, these are not classic cars. There's no such thing as a classic car, like a 1950s car, rental car, where someone's going to let someone take that out and drive it around on their own. Those things are way too valuable, and no one would ever take that up to take that chance.
Okay. And can we still bring humanitarian aid? And is it controlled? And is it allowed for hotel staff?
You can definitely bring humanitarian aid. It's not necessary, again, because like I said, the whole mission statement of our business is support for the Cuban people. So all of the money any of your travelers are spending is going toward that. But if people want to bring physical items, we definitely encourage it. We'll be very upfront with what it is that will be most valuable to bring and how to do it. And we want to make it easy for the clients. This doesn't have to be a situation where they got to pack a whole extra suitcase. So we'll let them know what they can bring, what's easy to get into the country, what won't be stopped and held up in customs.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the beach situation? Is it also a beach destination or more a city destination? And
yeah,
maybe also if scuba diving is possible, and if you
great.
would just have it as a day trip or would suggest to do like a 2-3 days add-on.
Okay, so separating this out, first just talk about beach in general. It's a Caribbean island. It is obviously surrounded by water. It has absolutely gorgeous beaches, white sand, you know, light blue seas. And so, you know, the someday, let's put it this way, someday Cuba will be a top beach destination for luxury travelers. You know, like a Turks and Caicos or anywhere else will be. The issue right now is that there are I shouldn't say no. Kempinski has built a luxury beach resort. The problem is it's a 7.5-hour drive from Havana, so we don't use it very often. But there are no in the beach destinations like the famous Veradero, the places that are very closer to Havana. Veradero is a 2-hour drive. It's all inclusive hotels. And the nicest of them, honestly, are like 4-star, not great food. It's not really a beach destination right now for the luxury travel advisor type client, not as a standalone beach destination. We are happy to take clients there. And I'm not just talking about for America, I'm talking about for everyone. We're happy to bring clients to the beach for the day. We can do overnights at the beach if they want. We just want to be very upfront about what the situation is at the beach when it comes to beach resorts. And because again, I'm catering to luxury high-end travel advisors, the clientele that you cater to, we just want to make sure they're recognizing what they're getting themselves into when they think of Cuba as a true beach destination. So for us, usually it's an add-on. It's a day trip for a day, or it's maybe a 1 or 2 night overnight, but not necessarily the place you want to spend, you know, an entire week just at a beach resort. Scuba diving. World-class scuba diving location. So there are 2 subsets of that because I'm also an avid diver. One of the top diving locations in the world is in Cuba. It's called the Gardens of the Queen. However, that location requires a 1-week live aboard, meaning you are it's 50 miles off the coast of Cuba in an archipelago. We arrange these trips all the time, and we usually will add on at least a few nights in Havana so they get some of that Havana experience, not just do it as a dive trip, but it is an amazing dive location for that level of diver. And if you have avid divers as clients, they probably are already aware of it. It's a bucket list diving location. There are also day trip scuba diving sites that are closer to Havana for any level of scuba diver, much easier to access, no liveaboard necessary, that are beautiful, beautiful reefs, 2-hour drive there, dive for, the afternoon and drive back. Doesn't have to be, for those people that just want to add diving in as part of their journey.
Do you have surf spots or boogie boarding beaches?
Yeah, not, more as a novelty. So there is a surf club in Cuba, and I know there have people, and I'm also a surfer, by the way. In fact, as soon as I'm off this call, behind those windows is my surf spot. So I wish there was better surfing. There isn't really great swells in Cuba. If there are, it's only because of a storm coming in or out or something that would be timed a certain way. So I wouldn't really call that it right now a destination for your surf clients.
And I have a question.
Kite surfing, by the way, just to add in, kite surfing, there's great kite surfing in Cuba. So if you have kite surfing clients, that's different.
Perfect.
There is some great locations for that.
Perfect. I have a question. It says, I have been told there's a strong emissions smell in the air in Havana. Is this true?
Emission smell like gasoline?
I guess so, yeah. From the cars.
I wouldn't say so. I've never heard anyone complain that that's an overriding smell. I mean, I think if you end up driving in, they have tuk-tuks there. These little 3-wheeled vehicles that run on, who knows what they run on. I think it depends on who owns that tuk-tuk. If they're filling it with, everything, kerosene, kitchen oil, I don't know what, those things stink. So I would never recommend any clients drive around in those. But in general, no, this isn't a location where you're just, can't stand the smell in the air. I wouldn't say that. There's not a lot of vehicles for a city of its size. The thing is, most Cubans don't even own cars. So, in general, there's not a tremendous amount of traffic, so you're not really running into that kind of smog situation.
All right. Do you know by any chance what the percentages of people vaccinated?
Yeah, so Cuba, interestingly enough, developed their own vaccine. Some of you may know that they're even though it's a third world country economically, that's not the case when it comes to their medical education and technology, especially epidemiology. They consider that a source of national pride. They cured Ebola. They were very active in HIV, medicines and that sort of thing. So they created their own vaccine, and it's testing at 90%. They are rapidly vaccinating their population. I believe Havana now is at 70%. Overall, the country as a whole, the entire island, I think it's around 50%. But based on the pace of vaccination that's going on, this is why they're lifting the quarantine as of November 15th. I think they're stating that 85% of the population will be vaccinated by November. And in Cuba, you don't have anti-vaxxers. And everybody pretty much is lining up and ready to get vaccinated.
And a mask, is there a mask mandate?
There isn't really a stated max mandate. We're going to see what happens with that. But yes, every worker in every paladar that we will go to, paladars are the private restaurants, all of our guides will be masked. We will be, adopting or have adopted, the tightest protocols that exist that are recommended until they aren't recommended anymore. So there's no reason to be concerned. But we are not going to have a mask mandate for our clients. If you have to be vaccinated to come to Cuba. That'll be enough. You will not be required to wear masks everywhere.
All right. And could you say something about the political climate right now and maybe the attitude towards Americans in Cuba?
Well, the attitude toward Americans, especially by the Cuban people, is excellent. Very warm, very friendly. The Cuban people like Americans. They recognize that better relations with the US is their future. They're very curious about our culture. So really, when we talk about this idea of cultural exchange, it's not something we have to artificially create in Cuba, because the Cuban people really want to, as much as they want to share their culture, they really want to learn more about what's going on here. As far as between the US and Cuba goes, during the Obama years, things were a lot nicer between the two countries. Certainly, the Trump administration came in and tried to reverse almost everything that was kind of put in place by the Obama administration. So then there's been definitely a cooling off period. Now we have obviously we have the Biden administration in place, but they haven't really touched anything yet. They haven't reversed anything that was done during the Trump years. It's sort of a wait and see. So it's it's not as good of a relationship as it was, that's for sure. But it's not something that will be palpable for the visitors. It doesn't mean that the Cuban government doesn't openly welcome U.S. travelers. They do. They do. And even if you want to be cynical and say they do only for economic reasons, fine. That may very well be the case. Either way, they recognize it's important, and it's a very friendly atmosphere for U.S. citizens to travel to Cuba.
All right, perfect. I have a little longer question. It's in regards to the number of nights. You're giving examples of number of nights to spend, but how do you work flights? Are there flights daily? Here in Canada, most are 7 nights packages or 14, or can be customized, but with Canadian Airlines.
Yeah. So this is a specific Canadian traveler question, or just in general?
Yes. Well,
so in general, yes. I mean, normally, let's start with the U.S. There will be flights. They're bringing them back on board. They pulled a lot of the routes for obvious reasons. There wasn't a lot of demand. Cuban Americans were going to visit family because they could put up with quarantine situations, but not the normal tourist. So there will be, as far as we've been told, certainly by the airlines themselves, there will be daily nonstops. Daily nonstops will be back, later this year, certainly in 2022, from Miami, from Fort Lauderdale, from New York, JFK, Newark, Atlanta's flights are coming back. I've heard Houston's flights are coming back. These are the cities I'm talking about that are nonstop direct flights. Canada is interesting. So Canada has, they've been, obviously, unlike the US, their citizens have been free to go back and forth to Cuba without restrictions for forever. But they've really kind of developed this idea that the Cuba, the focus for them is your all-inclusive, let's say, inexpensive beach destination, which is exactly why this question is about. Most of the flights from Canada right now actually don't even go to Havana. They're charters that go right into Veradero and back to Toronto from Veradero. It's very interesting, right? It's the opposite of what's going on in the United States. So for our Canadian clients, what we do is we're not, that's great. They want to spend a week at the beach in Cuba. That's fine. You don't really need us for that. We're happy to book it for them. That's fine. But we will collect them in Veradero. We'll drive them into Havana. We'll do the Havana culture portion of their kind of visit, and then make sure they're back in Veradero for their flight home. That's how we kind of manage that.
All right. And can you give us a ballpark figure for what the sample 3-day birthday weekend might be per person?
For the birthday weekend?
Yeah,
that's a tougher one. That's a tougher one. Because again, it depends on so much. It depends on how many people, and what kind of accommodations and where, you know, there's a lot that goes into every one of those kinds of trips. And by the way, once you get into our portal, we do have more information on pricing in there. Like I said, it's password protected, so you will see we have kind of a little bit more information. I think it's easier for us if I give you, let's just say, a range, something to kind of get your arms around. Because all of our trips, and again, remember, it's key that you understand when you're talking about our price, you got to compare apples and apples, not apples and oranges. You can't look at our price and say, oh, well, you know, compare it to a trip where it's basically booking a hotel and a transfer. Our trips are accommodations, private full-time guide, driver, vehicle, all of the sites and interactions and special things that go on during their stay. 90% of any money they're going to spend on their trip to Cuba is included in the price that I'm giving you. But that being said, our range, and again, of course, pricing changes based on how many people, what accommodations they're staying in, what time of year, because there's seasonality in our business, as you know. But let's just say it's $700 on the low end to $1,100 per person per day. That's kind of the best way for me to give you a range. But like I said, remember, that's everything.
Perfect. I think that already helps to get somewhat of an idea. And like you said,
Yeah.
in the portal, there are some more detailed information. As far as I can tell, I think we have answered all the questions.
Great. Great.
And I see we're already a little over time, but
okay.
It was interesting. And
good. I'm glad to hear that. And by the way, just so everyone knows this, you can't learn everything about, you know, Cuba or selling Cuba, or, you know, obviously in one webinar. We're here for you. That's my point. This is a partnership. Reach out to us. We're happy to work with you even in the sales cycle. You don't have to have a confirmed client who knows exactly what dates they want to travel and when. We love that too, of course. But my point is, just contact us. You have any doubts, you have any questions, that's what my team and I are here for. And of course, when it comes to once the trip is booked and we're building this itinerary for them, we'll be very involved. We'll be as involved as you want us to. We encourage you to bring us in on a Zoom or just a voice call with you and the client, where we go over all the cool things that they can put into their itinerary. This is what it's all about.
All right. Well, I say thank you, David, for this
You're welcome.
Interesting webinar, and everyone else that took the time. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I hope to see all of you in Cuba or somewhere else, but
me too.
That's
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah, stay safe and have a great rest of the day.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you all.
Thank you
all,
David.
guys. Really appreciate this.
Thank you. Bye-bye.